Welcome everyone. So, let's begin. We are reading the Federalist Papers. I believe it is a book every political scientist should read. And we're in the essay of Alexander Hamilton. We were still concerning the topics of the insufficiency of a confederacy to preserve the Union. It's essay number 22 that we're in. Let's continue. The larger states would, after a while, revolt from the idea of receiving the law from the smaller. Now, this is interesting. Larger states not wanting to be subjugated to the rule of a more smaller one. That's a bit interesting to think about. Some people will say land doesn't vote, density votes, but depends on what commodity is on the land and if land is a commodity in and of itself and how it's being utilized. Very interesting thing to think about. To acquiesce in such a privation of their due importance in the political scale would not merely be insensible to the love of power, but even to sacrifice the desire of equality. Sacrificing the desire for equality, love of power, insensible. Interesting. It is neither rational to expect the first, nor just to require the last. So it's not just if you want to sacrifice equality, and it's not rational to have a lust for power. I agree. Hamilton is wise. The smaller states, considering how peculiarly their safety and welfare depend on union, ought readily to renounce a pretension, which, if not relinquished, would prove fatal to its duration. Okay, so look at that. A small state should depend upon the union and should show and express what pretensions need addressing and renounce any ones that would cause them to have a problem, because if they don't, the duration of their peace and membership equally in the union will suffer. That's interesting. It may be objected to this that not 7 but 9 states, or 2/3 of the whole number, must consent to the most important resolutions, and it may be thence inferred that 9 states would always comprehend a majority of the Union. Okay, so thence inferred that 9 states would always comprehend a majority of the Union. A majority of the Union. But this does not obviate the impropriety of an equal vote. Does not obviate the impropriety of an equal vote between states of the most unequal dimensions and populousness. Aha. So, equal vote between states, regardless of dimensions in land or population density. Nor is the inference accurate in point of fact, for we can enumerate 9 states which contain less than a majority of the people, and it is continually possible that these 9 may give the vote. True. That's interesting, yeah. Besides, there are matters of considerable moment determinable by a bare majority. Bare majority. And there are others concerning which doubts have been entertained, which, if interpreted in favor of sufficiency, of a vote of 7 states, would extend its operation to interests of the first magnitude. Interests of the first magnitude, favor of sufficiency. In addition to this, it is to be observed that there is probably an increase in the number of states, and no provision for the proportional augmentation of the ratio of votes. No provision for the proportional augmentation of the ratio of votes. So the ratio is how it's going to go. Proportional augmentation, making it proportional and fit thereof, kind of organizing it into a way that has more of equality. But no provision is an interesting caveat. No provision for proportional augmentation. But this is not all. What at first sight may seem a remedy is in reality a poison. Okay, let's see what that poison is. That's pretty strong words. Hamilton. To give a minority a negative upon the majority. Ooh, to give a minority a negative upon the majority, which is always the case where more than a majority is requisite to a decision. Yeah, to democracy then, right? Maybe. Is in its tendency to subject the sense of the greater to that of the lesser number. Okay, subject the sense of the greater number to that of the lesser number. So the minorities should conform to the majority. To give a minority a negative upon the majority. Okay. So the minorities. Okay, that's interesting. He's talking about the states in size of power and density, not people shade. That's not what he means. Not talking about immigration status. He's talking about the states in dimensions and populousness. Don't forget. Congress, from the non-attendance of a few states, have been frequently in the situation of a Polish diet. Okay, so this is cool. Let's see what he means. The Polish diet. So none of us really know much politics about Poland in the 1700s, but let's see what he did. He gave us the Greek examples earlier, so let's continue. Where a single veto has been sufficient to put a stop to all their movements. Aha, a single veto. No, can be done. A 60th part of the Union, which is about the proportion of Delaware and Rhode Island, has several times been able to oppose an entire bar to its operations. Okay, so even a teeny tiny state with their veto power, stopping something. Okay. This is one of those refinements which in practice has an effect, the reverse of what is expected from it in theory. Okay, so the opposite of what was expected happened. Let's see what that was. The necessity of unanimity in public bodies. Okay, so he's contending a unanimity in public bodies is necessary. Did you catch that? Or of something approaching towards it has been founded upon a supposition that it would contribute to security. Aha. So he's saying that a lot of people think that if you have unanimity in a public body, it will contribute to security. Well, security of what? Let's see. But its real operation is to embarrass the administration, to destroy the energy of the government, and to substitute the pleasure, caprice, or artifices of an insignificant, turbulent, or corrupt junto to the regular deliberations and decisions of a respectable majority. Aha, you catch that? Okay, so it's the operation of having there be an equal contribution and also equality and unanimity in the public bodies does stem impartial based upon security. However, it's also to keep the factions in check. It's also to make sure that the government doesn't become tyrannical, it contends, to make sure that there isn't this pleasure of power, right? Remember, he contended earlier that it is a vice, obviously, for the love of power. Remember here? Merely to be insensible to the love of power, but even to sacrifice desire of equality. Remember, he said that that wasn't just or rational? So, the unanimity in the public bodies is a check on that power. Clearly, he believes, right? And turbulence, so even if there's a bit of anarchy and chaos or corruption, they will be subjected to the respectable majority who hasn't lost their mind. So you don't want the people who've lost their mind to be in power. This is something that we all have to really look upon, right? To acquiesce in such a privation of their due importance in the political scale, that would be not merely to be insensible to the love of power, but even to sacrifice desire of equality. So we have to keep that in mind. Would prove fatal to its duration. You see that? The union needs to be dependent upon, secure, and it will help all the states survive their duration, he contends. So, more wisdom from Hamilton. What do you think?